For this video I got some questions from Discord and YouTube regarding Furina. Let's answer them. Ninja Stealth asks, HP versus Hydro Goblet, which one is better and do constellations change it? What happens on Furina is that you're likely going Golden Shroop and her own buffing mechanic can go up to 75% even at C0. These damage percentage buffs are directly comparable to Hydro damage bonus. And in Genshin, having tons of one kind of stat makes other stats that contribute to your damage shine a little bit more. So to put it simply, the more damage percentage you have, the more HP you might want. Furina also has an Ascension passive that further boosts damage and it's based on your HP. Adding to this, we have almost no way to buff HP, with basically the only viable one being Hydro Resonance. But as you can see, a ton of ways to buff damage percentage, and by quite a bit. Zupi says, skill or burst first in a rotation. Generally, skill is better because it starts draining HP from your party members as soon as possible, and that means more HP to heal after, even though it won't drain her own HP during the burst animation, but that's fine. The skill also lasts way longer than the burst, and you want to have the most fanfare as soon as possible once the burst is cast. Using the skill first also allows you to cancel the animation a bit better, as you can skill, dash, burst, and it's a pretty fast setup. Burst into skill is viable and it's not that big of a deal, but the best use is probably when you want to catch particles from teammates, or some C6 setup. Regarding HP or ER sense, if you have a best in slot weapon, you're hardly going HP unless your ER requirements are extremely low. I will have a chart later in the video with ER requirements for various teams, since some questions were about this. So if you have HP sense, you can probably still go HP Goblet, but a very good Hydro one can be used. If you have Energy Recharge sense, HP Goblet is amazing. Constellations change this a tiny bit. With C2 activated, going Hydro Goblet is definitely okay, but it's not a clear win. It will still depend on the quality of your artifacts. If you have weird stat distributions, for example a ton of HP percentage substats, or you don't use Golden Shroop, then the answer might change, but at that point only a calculator can really tell you. And now a bunch of questions by people that already have a copy of Furina. C1 or signature weapon? And this answer would be C1. It's damage for everyone and not just yourself. The weapon fails in one thing, which is helping you get the burst back. It gives a lot of personal damage and in some cases it makes sense, but most of the time the extra fanfare is just better. I'd argue that it's also one step closer to C2, which is even better. But you know, the drip is the drip. Jack asks, does Neuvillette stack her burst efficiently or should I run a healer with them? This is your fanfare generation with a C0 Furina during each of Neuvillette's first 4 charge attacks in a normal rotation. As you can see, we max it out very late. One Neuvillette charge attack, in the most ideal scenario, will give you almost 100 fanfare points, but it takes quite a bit. Prototype Ember can help this by giving you around 70 fanfare over 6 seconds. Furina's Ascension heal can also be triggered by Neuvillette alone, which helps the overall team. Getting max fanfare late is not great, but it's still worth it for a good off-field damage dealer, a shielder if necessary, or a buffer like Kazuha. So no, you don't need a healer, but of course you can use one. It will come down to the quality of the character that would sub the healer for. I wouldn't run Charlotte over a good Fischl for example, but I would over a not so built one or a less synergistic unit for the team. Does Sigewinne work well with Furina? Sigewinne heals with just her skill and everyone but herself and for quite a big amount. So yes, she's really good at stacking fanfare. She also buffs elemental skill damage for off-field characters, which is perfect for Furina, although she doesn't offer that much else and her Hydro application is one of the worst in the game and that's very important but also very dependent on the team. If you use Furina with Arlecchino and Arlecchino burst does stack fanfare, why can't you use Furina with her? Because Arlecchino burst is first off not that great, and your first rotation can't just press burst and heal. You won't have consumed enough HP yet. Your second rotation can, but healing one character from 50 to 100% is just 50 fanfare points, and Furina can stack up to 300 as C0. Plus, Arlecchino will never be healed by any healer in the party, nor Furina's Ascension heal. This duo is just a mess no matter how you look at it, but they're both strong, so you will see it from time to time. Hi says, if I use Furina, is it necessary to use the team healer right after her burst, or is there a specific time for it? There is a time for it, but it depends on the team. Let's take a Charlotte example. If everyone is full HP, I cast Furina's skill and burst and then Charlotte burst. She won't heal much, she just heals a bit off Furina's brief HP drain, which means less fanfare points. If you have a team healer, you want to insert them as late as possible in your setup, before the most damage comes out. Let's say it's a Wanderer team. You do the entire setup, and right before Wanderer you heal up, so that Wanderer gets the most fanfare and still comes on field at the time he's supposed to. This applies to most teams, but in such a case you're not doing Furina, Charlotte, Faruzan, but you are doing Furina, Faruzan, Charlotte. Lynn is asking, whenever would you use a healer Furina? Pretty much never, but there are setups where you can swiftly change your arc just to get one heal off and then switch back. And I can see a low AR count or skill issue player wanting a buffer that can heal. Just keep in mind that if you heal you don't generate energy nor drain HP, which is a big deal for her. Healer Furina is kind of like playing a slightly better version of Chi-Chi. But of course you can just switch for a Numa hit as well. Does 4-piece Marechaussee do more damage on a main DPS compared to their usual best in slot artifact set just because Furina allows the trigger of 36% crit rate? Example Noelle, 4-piece Ask versus Marechaussee. Yes, generally in a vacuum in which a character doesn't have anything in particular that stands out, then Marechaussee is becoming the best in slot set. We also noticed that with Wanderer. He has a set made literally just for him and Marechaussee is quite a bit better. The same happens to Noelle, but of course it will still depend on a lot of factors. But I think MiHoYo will continue to try to tune down the Marechaussee users in the future, by either make them not good with Furina or not want that much crit rate. Joa asks, what is the fastest way to achieve maximum fanfare stacks from her ult in Abyss? I need advanced tips for that. Plan in advance your rotation and make sure that you consume and heal the most HP. It's basically just that. And your heal less late but always before your big damage. Another thing is, if possible, try to trigger Furina's Ascension heal, which heals the entire party and is triggered by overhealing the active character. And as someone pointed out in another question, you can also use the Abyss card that heals on burst cast. In their case, they were using Cookie as a healer. She gives you 30 fanfare when you press her skill and 30 more fanfare for each burst cast. To answer the energy recharge questions, I made this chart with various team templates. Always keep in mind that this can change a lot depending on everything in your team. If you want a specific number, you can calculate it, ask me, or just go in Abyss or against a boss and test it. Just remember that if you test it yourself, depending on the enemy, they will drop different amount of energy particles, and you should take that into account. If you have a question we have not talked about today, just comment it below and I will try to make sure to read them all. Thank you for watching. If you want to hang out, I'm live every weekday, both on Twitch and YouTube. I'll see you there.